You're watching The Community MMA.
What up? This your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is Community MMA. UFC 290 just around the corner. I can't wait. Put up a poll earlier. Robert Whittaker, Rodriguez, Duplessis, and it's basically 55-45. Whittaker. I mean, it really doesn't matter which way it is. It's close enough to people. There's a lot of people that believe that Rodriguez Duplessis can pull this thing off, and that's going to be easily the best fight of the night. You also got Bo Bickal in action, right? They got a late fighter taking the fight against him. I don't even know his name. It doesn't matter. Bo Bickal, I believe they're saying, is the biggest favorite in UFC history, right? This guy's coming into a fight. He's the biggest favorite. First UFC fight, doesn't even have a fight in the UFC. And the hype train is for real. The hype train is for real. He'll be at UFC 290 taking on whoever. It doesn't matter. And maybe, a theory, maybe this is why they're slowing Khamzat down. They want to make sure both these guys are at the top at the same time. Well, I can tell you, if one of the two gets to the top first, they're going to have to fight the other. And by that time, that could be one fighter that if they continue on this hype, the trajectory, that maybe could take down Khamzat or present a challenge, right? I don't know if he could throw hands with Khamzat, but he'll get better by the time that comes. And the ability to defend takedowns and get takedowns could make things interesting. I think that will be the most interesting fighter if the hype continues. Not today, but he keeps winning and dominating people, and you got both these guys dominating. I could see that fight being huge 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So keep an eye on that. And, speaking of Khamzat, aren't all these other champions right now kind of like illegitimate champions? They hold the belt, but nobody wants to fight Khamzat to give him a chance to get to the belt. So to me, if that's the way they want to play it, then all these champions are straight up illegitimate champions. They're not real champions. They're fake champions until someone fights Khamzat. You beat Khamzat, I'm willing to believe. And you say, there's some of you out there that don't like Khamzat, call him a quitter, say all these things. And it's like, Chris Cross, why do you think that he's going to just run the table? Have you not watched his fights? You can see where this thing is going. That's how I feel. That's what I said from day one. I watch every UFC fight. And when I watch Khamzat fight, maybe not the first time, but the second and third, when he fought like 10 days, he had one fight like, let's just say a Wednesday, and then another fight on a Saturday, and now you're fighting 10 days apart. And on top of that, the way that he dominated, I knew right then that I was witnessing something different than what I have seen before. And then the next step is, you fight a little bit better at competition. Gerald Meerschaert, you dominate him in 17 seconds. And if you will go back and watch that fight, Meerschaert covered up in about 10, 12 seconds. And it's just like, okay, now Meerschaert usually gets in there and goes to battle with people and beats a lot of people. Gets beat too, but he's a competitor. He's in the mix within almost every fight. He might get submitted. He could submit someone, but he's a fighter. He's in the fights, Not the best, but he's an average fighter. He's average, to good. Better than average. And he went in there and beat him in 17 seconds. Then he gets up there against Burns, which is not his best division, right? Because he's trying to squeeze down into weight. He could fight once for the title at that weight again, but he's not going to be a premier in that division, a staple in that division. Just like Conor McGregor wouldn't have been a staple in the featherweight. Eventually he's going to have to move up, and he did that rather quickly when the opportunity presented itself. So he had a tough fight against Gilbert Burns, but Gilbert Burns beats people. He beat Masvidal, right? He beats people. And Khamzat went in there and had a battle on his hands, and he looked pretty darn good, especially in that third round. He's taking shots. He's landing shots. And I think because the fight was close, people were saying, see, now aren't you going to come down from the pedestal and say that, no, I still believe he's going to run through everybody. He had a minor setback, but a lot of times when people have minor setbacks, they end up losing the fight. You don't hear, Hamza had a minor setback, but won. And there's probably a little nerves going in there because now you're getting to the upper, like if you go in there and just run through Gilbert Burns, everybody else might as well get out of the way. Because all these guys, Burns, Covington, Usman, Leon Edwards, are all on the same level. There's going to be one of them that's a little bit better than the others, but they're all relatively on the same level. So he went in there and did what he had to do. Then took the fight against Kevin Holland on short notice because he couldn't make weight. I mean, who cares, right? You're fighting Nate Diaz. What is that really going to do? Except be another win and another reason for people to say, oh, Nate Diaz is washed up or whatever they're going to say to diminish your victory. Instead, he fights a Kevin Holland, who to me is more relevant right now. And he fights him more in Kevin Holland's direction at 180 and just demolished him in 2 minutes. He's a different breed. He looks different. And I know some of you are upset because he didn't make the weight against Nate Diaz and this, that, and the other. But you got to put those feelings aside and just look at the fighter and say, doesn't this guy to you look like he's a little bit different than every other cat? And then the UFC's not letting him fight? What's up with that? Something's up with that. So to me, all these other champions right now are illegitimate until they fight Hamza. Hamza is the guy to beat. That's just how I feel. He might not be the champion today, but he's already, in my mind, he's already the champion. And until the champions that say right now they're the champions or hold the title, fine. Give Hamza a shot and beat him. They're illegitimate. Everyone else is just fighting for, the change over time. This guy will be champion for a few fights. This guy gets a belt. He may lose someone else, and there's 3 or 4 guys wrestling around, and then they fade, and a new crop comes up, and then Hamza, to me, seems like a guy, he's going to get the title and dominate. And dominate. And then it's how long can you hold on to it? Because then you got everyone, all the young bucks coming for you, but that's always going to be the case. But he's way better than everybody else in the middleweight division for sure. You know how I feel about Adesanya, but he's way better. Bo Nickal could be a challenge later on down the road. But if you're a Hamza fan, the 3-belt possibility is still there. You got to get the middleweight first. You go down for one fight and one fight only at at welterweight. One fight and one fight only. Get the middleweight belt first. Go down for one fight, win the belt, never defend it. Go back up to middleweight, defend that a time or two. Go get the light heavyweight. That can happen in a 2 to 3 year stretch. Very easily. The problem is, how long are we going to wait to get to the beginning of that stretch, which, if I'm right, will be getting the middleweight belt first. And the day that Hamza gets the light heavyweight belt, becomes the first UFC fighter to get 3, all of you that were talking crap all the way along the way, please watch that episode, because that's going to be an 8-hour marathon. That's going to be an 8-hour marathon, because it's going to happen. And it just bothers me that the UFC is getting in the way of that. And heaven forbid, if he doesn't get the 3rd belt, because, then he's like 33 or something at the time, 35, whatever, that's a problem. Like, it has to happen in a certain amount of time, because you do start to go downhill. I don't care who you are. Hamza will slow down. There'll be some 26 to 29-year-old coming up. Could be like a Bo Nickal type. Might be Bo Nickal. And is on your heels. And they're going to present a problem when they get to you. Whether you win that fight or not, we won't know. I'm not talking today. I'm talking Bo Nickal 3 to 5 years from now. That could present a problem. So they got to hurry up and get the ball rolling for Hamza. And it's frustrating that they're making him wait and wait and wait. Now let's keep this thing moving forward. Last night, Team Chandler. Team Chandler, yeah. Dominated again. Not the actual whole fight, but won another one. 6-0. McGregor's only got his 2 number 4 fighters. This is like the worst prospect against the best veteran. McGregor's going to get swept. McGregor is going to get swept. And then you had the aftermath last night. So, of course there's commercials and stuff when you're watching the Ultimate Fighter, so I'm kind of trying to cut this up and things like that, so we don't sit through the commercials. But this is how it went down, because after the fight, there was a little shoving and all this type of thing going on. The fight looked like Team McGregor was going to win the whole time, and then at the very end, he gets submitted. So it was just crazy last night. Check this out. Lee Hammond about 2 minutes and 15 seconds away from victory here, just dominating this fight. And he's on top. So Team McGregor looking to get their first victory. They need this one too, because after this, chances are if they don't get this, they'll lose all 8. Now Kurt Holobaugh trying to get up. Ooh, and Lee Hammond. Oh, Lee Hammond slips. Now he's on his back. Okay, here comes Kurt. Oh, ankle lock by Hammond. Now they're scrambling. Holobaugh looking to get on top. Oh, look at this. Oh, he's on top. Lee Hammond squirming. Oh, he lost the position. He's in trouble here. Oh, my goodness. This will be terrible for Team McGregor. And he taps. No. Oh, my God. Chandler can't believe it. And McGregor looks not happy. Wow. McGregor can't believe this. They're finally about to get a win. And then Lee Hammond loses his position and gets submitted. Oh, my goodness. Unbelievable. And as you look at the replays here, I mean, it's just Lee Hammond just dominating this fight until the very last second with about a minute and a half left in the second round. Now Michael Chandler saying Hail Mary Holobaugh. That's what it was like, basically a Hail Mary. And you catch it and win even though you were losing the whole game. Now both are coming together with Herb Dean. And you got Kurt Holobaugh holding up a picture. So he's going to get it by guillotine. And man, Holobaugh did not look good in this fight, and he's moving on. And what'll be interesting is if he comes in his next fight and dominates. But highly unlikely. Just because Chandler's got all 4 guys moving on. Holobaugh's the 4th seed, so he's going to take on the best fighter from Team Chandler. So at this point, Chandler's got 3 of the 4 spots locked in both divisions. The best McGregor can do is try to win one of these last 2. But they're both the number 4 guys. Like the ones that McGregor looked at first and said, these guys have no chance, the least chance to win. Not no chance, but the least chance. He's got them both up next. So McGregor's in a bad situation. Now McGregor's shaking Kurt Holobaugh's hand. But he's starting to talk a little trash here. Uh-oh. McGregor and Chandler coming together. Ooh, baby, here we go. Ooh. McGregor shoves Chandler right in the face. And here you go. Now you got Dana White sprinting. Now Dana White looking like the referee in here. He's trying to get everyone out. Boy, and Chandler was kind of laughing at first, and now he's flipped the switch. Now Chandler's talking to getting high fives from McGregor's team. So it's just the whole thing for McGregor is just he's falling apart. His team's falling apart. And being the person that McGregor is, this is damaging to the ego. Team Chandler's team talking trash to McGregor as he walks out, saying it's time to go home. Oh, man, this is terrible for him. But it's not like the good old days where they had these guys in situations where there's a lot of trash talking. This type of stuff could happen. That's like the best you're going to get is you can say Chandler was hit to the face, but it's more like a shove. And McGregor's taking the walk of shame right now, more or less, as he leaves. And likely we'll lose the next 2, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I feel for McGregor, man. I feel for him. Down 0-6, it's damaging to the ego. Even though you're not fighting, it's just the Ultimate Fighter. It's like, that's McGregor. He don't lose. In his mind, right? That's just how. He's not a loser. He's a winner. and you come into this thing and you're likely now to, can you imagine you get swept 8-0? Oh my gosh. And all he can do is sit and watch, right? He can't do anything about it. That's the worst feeling. And then you got Dana White. The video, just when they cut to Dana White, and you see Dana White sprinting around the octagon. It's like, okay, say he does get in the octagon, and there is a real fight, and McGregor, which there wasn't, but if Chandler or McGregor start throwing down, like, what's Dana White going to actually do? He's going to be like in the old days with Van Gundy, I think it was, the coach of the Knicks. You have to check me on these names, but when Van Gundy, the coach of the Knicks, tried to break up a fight between the Heat and the Knicks, and next thing you know, he's holding on for dear life on, I think it was Alonzo Mourning's leg. And you just see him flinging all over the place. Like, that's what Dana White would probably look like. if these two guys really went to blows, like, who's going to stop them? You know what I mean? It's going to take like 5 guys on each side to stop them because there's going to be some big punches thrown. So luckily it didn't get there, But just the thought of Dana White running around here, I'm just thinking, like, what if there's we know there's not going to be a fight. They would probably show more footage to pump it up. But if there was, like, what's Dana White actually going to do when he got, he's thinking money, like, this is bad for business. Even though it's good for business, it's also could be bad if it goes too far. And he's sprinting in the octagon, but what's he going to do when he gets in there? That's my question. So a couple big fights this Saturday night for sure, right? We already covered like 3 or 4 of them. But let's jump into these predictions and waste no time. You got first in the co-main event, the first title's on the line, flyweight division. Moreno versus Pantoja 2. Pantoja won the first fight. Look out. In the flyweight division for the flyweight division title, this is going to be a banger. Brandon Moreno comes in at 21-6 and holds the title, taking on Alexander Pantoja, who he lost to back in 2018, long time ago. He's 25-5. Now Moreno 2 inches taller at 5'7". He's 29. He's peaking. Pantoja pretty much already peaked and maintained it. Moreno has a 2-inch reach advantage, 70-68. Both guys fight right-handed. Now here's where why a lot of people believe Pantoja will win is the activity. 4.3 significant strikes per minute to 3.6 for Moreno. Both guys land over a takedown per round. And in the previous fight, Moreno had 2 takedowns to none, but trailed big time in significant strikes. So Moreno, 67% takedown defense. That'll be fine. Lately, he beat Figueiredo in the 4th fight, beat Kai Kara France by KO before that. He had 4 fights in a row with Figueiredo, but going back to his fight with Pantoja a long time ago, he's 24, 25 at the time. He's young, lost by decision, 79-45 in significant strikes. Pantoja, on the other hand, has won 3 in a row against top fighters like Alex Perez, Brandon Royval, Manel Kape. So he's earned the right to get to this fight. He did lose to Askar Askarov, but that was 4 fights ago. Since then, that was in 2020 as well, very early on at a weird time in the UFC, but has run off 3 straight since. Now, Moreno is he's actually a 2-1 favorite. I thought he was the underdog. Okay, that makes more sense to me because moments ago I was looking at it and I was like, how is Pantoja the favorite? There's no way. But in my opinion, Brandon Moreno is going to win this fight. He's going to do it on takedowns and really try to control this thing. And it might be a close fight if it goes to a decision, but I think Moreno still wins 3 out of 5 rounds on at least 2 judges' scorecards. But make no mistake, Pantoja is going to give himself every opportunity to win this fight. I just think Moreno is too good now. And it's, it's 5 years later, 2018 to 2023. So you got a much better Moreno since then. He wins by decision, more than likely to move to 22-6, flyweight division title at UFC. At UFC 290, right? So Brandon Moreno, we got him winning. This is going to be not an easy fight for him, though. It's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a very tough fight because when a guy has beaten you, they come in with a lot more confidence. That's why I thought Leon Edwards would beat Usman in the rematch. It just oozing with confidence. In your mind, okay, I've beaten this guy. I can beat this guy. And let's go. Now, it didn't work out for McGregor against Poirier. So years later does make a difference. You're dealing with 2 different fighters now, but there still is something to the fact when these guys are both still in their prime, both young, one beat the other. So, he might have his number. So look for that with Moreno and Pantoja. That kind of makes things interesting because no matter if these are our favorite fighters or not, or not even ours, just everybody's in the UFC. These last two fights are just kind of like, but if the title switches hands, then it becomes a big deal, right? So they're not like the best divisions, flyweight, featherweight, okay, not bad. But, you know, but if he loses, Moreno loses, then this becomes a big deal. And then in the main event, of course, you got Volkanovski versus Yair Rodriguez. Who doesn't want to see that? Okay, we all expect Volkanovski to win, but what if Yair wins? You never know. Let's get into the prediction right now. In the featherweight division, for the featherweight division title at UFC 290, this is your main event. You got Alexander Volkanovski coming in at an impressive 25-2, taking on Yair Rodriguez, who comes in at 16-3. Volkanovski is a decent favorite, nearly 5-1 coming into this fight. Now he's 5 inches shorter at 5'6". He's used to that. He's getting up there in age a little bit, 34 years old. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Volkanovski lands about 6.4 significant strikes per minute. Yair, 4.8 per minute. So both guys very active. That's the first thing you want to notice. Volkanovski lands like a takedown and a half every 3 rounds. So that's like a takedown every other round. So in a 5-round fight, maybe he gets 2 takedowns. Yair Rodriguez, not even 1 takedown over the course of 3 rounds. So just looking at how these guys stack up before we go further, Volkanovski is better everywhere. He also has a decent takedown defense, 70%. That's slightly above average. That's helping him stay atop the division. Now, he went up to the lightweight division, as you know, lost to Islam Makhachev by unanimous decision. He outstruck Islam 70-57, believe it or not. But Islam landed 4 takedowns and controlled the fight for 3 rounds. That's the bottom line. Volkanovski has beaten Max Holloway like 3 times, dominated him in the last fight, 199-127 in significant strikes, no takedowns. He beat Chan Sung Jung, a.k.a. the Korean Zombie, with 4 takedowns. He beat Brian Ortega in dominating fashion, 214 significant strikes to 88. And you can just go down the list, and he lands a lot of significant strikes. It makes it very tough on opponents. Yair Rodriguez coming off the win over Josh Emmett. That was big. Triangle submission. Beat Brian Ortega by KO. Lost to Max Holloway. See, that's a big one there. Max Holloway got off on him. Lost by unanimous decision. He did beat Jeremy Stevens before that. But listen, this one's simple. Volkanovski's beat Holloway 3 times. Yair couldn't even match up with Holloway. This is going to be an easy victory for Volkanovski. Yeah, he's 34 years old, but he's still in the prime of his career. He's not going down in this fight unless there's some underlying problem that he has coming into the fight, which I don't foresee that as well, although fighters do deal with problems like that we're sometimes unaware. But the bottom line is Volkanovski is the better fighter. He's going to beat Yair Rodriguez, but I'd like to see him get the finish. We'll see. But nonetheless, he's going to move to 26-2, mainly in significant strikes. He'll defend the takedowns well enough, probably land close to 200 significant strikes in this fight, and win easily over Yair Rodriguez here in the featherweight division at UFC 290. Yeah, so 2 tough predictions, right? Titles on the line in the co-main event and main event, as is usually standard at pay-per-view events. And I just like Volkanovski to win this thing, so I like both champions to win, right? So it's probably going to be a regular pay-per-view event, and that's why people aren't excited about the last 2 fights, because it's just like, you just figure the champion's going to win. But if Volkanovski doesn't win and Yair sneaks up on him, it changes everything after the fact. Then maybe that's one of the biggest trending fights. Right now, it's going to be Robert Whittaker and Dricus du Plessis. So we'll have to wait and see, man. But I'm excited for this Saturday night. It's a big one. 13 fights, 14 fights on the card. It seems like every time I look, there's another fight added. Bo Nickal's got a new opponent. Now you got Tatsuro Taira on the card. We haven't done those 2 predictions yet with the 2 new fights. We'll get there. But I think you know who I'm picking in both of those because I mentioned their names. As we get into the Q&A, Miami Explorer says UFC is playing the goose who lays a golden egg. Talking about Khamzat. They're just playing. They're messing with him. They're messing things up. He's being iced out. It's crazy. You got another one. He's not going to fight again. Khamzat is a quitter. The fans need to stop hyping him. Oh, Lord. See, it's those type of comments that make me crazy. Because in what world is Khamzat a quitter? He hasn't been in the octagon long enough to quit because he beats his opponents quickly. Doesn't even make sense. Justin Gonzalez. The crazy thing is that Khamzat is a wild man that cannot be controlled. There's always the chance that this guy can get into trouble or provoked by fans into a bad situation. And yes, it's very true. And that's why I like McGregor as well. That's why I always like McGregor when he was on the come up. You know, a part of the fighters I like are the ones that are a little bit out of control. Those are the ones I like to see fight, because when they win, they back it up, and then they get more out of control, and then they're, it's a cycle, man, and it's fun to watch. Antre, Duplessis all day. Jonah Hollander, agree with you a lot, but I don't know, man. Right? Talking about Robert Whittaker and Duplessis, he said Duplessis struggle puffs for breakfast against Till. He's going to get finished or TKO'd or 30-28/30-27 against Whittaker. And that's possible, man. You know, because Duplessis always comes on in the end. He kind of wears out his opponents in the second round and then takes over. You know, and then takes over. So we'll have to wait and see. At MMA Fan says, Denise is going to give Yasmin a run for her money. So we got we got a couple non-Khamzat comments, but, of course, that's a fight I'm looking for. And a lot of times the women's fights get overlooked. I tell you that all the time. But that's going to be a good one. You got another one coming in with Khamzat. It's July and still nothing confirmed. UFC wasting time. Kenneth Bruner, yeah. May God have mercy on his sparring partners. Those fools could end up getting hurt if Khamzat is fighting out of anger and frustration. He needs a fight now. And that's exactly what he's fighting out of. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Hopefully his training partners are blessed, because you're messing with a guy, and it's not on the same level as Mike Tyson, but it's the same situation where you got this guy that is ready to win everything. He likes to fight naturally, and you're keeping him without a fight. The wolf has to eat, and if he doesn't, training partners are going to pay. That's just the bottom line. It's not the guy's frustrated, man. He needs a fight. He needs a fight now. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it seems like we're going to be waiting a long time. We go through this whole year with no fight announcement. That's a big problem. That's a big problem. But let's wrap this up, man. UFC 290 this Saturday night. Khamzat's being iced out. Bo Nickal has arrived. Biggest betting favorite in UFC history. So, means you got to put a lot of money up to make a little bit. But hey, at least you'll make a little bit. For now, this is your boy Chris Cross. Have a great day and God bless.